What is up, guys? Player One Gaming here, back with another video. Today, I'm going to be talking about football again. This is what I really like doing. These are the videos that I'm really enjoying making. So, I'm going to talk about this first one, which I thought was interesting. This is the blue chip ratio for 2018. 13 teams have recruited well enough to win a national title. Only 10% of the 130 teams in the FBS have enough talent to win the Natty, according to a recent historical benchmark. All right, let's read what it says here. Is it even popping up? Okay. All right. Where is it? I went too far. College football kicks off in 1 week. Sheesh, that took no time at all. But the national champion was likely decided between 28 and 184 weeks earlier on a national signing day over the last 4 years. Because there is a certain baseline of talent required to win the title. I track this using my blue chip ratio statistic. Put simply, teams who win the title sign more 4 and 5-star recruits than 2 and 3 stars over the previous 4 signing classes. This has been true for about as far back as modern recruiting rankings can be tracked. It's easy to think of the stat as the percentage of 4 and 5 stars signed by a team. Out of total signees, generally teams whose signees are less than 50% blue chips over the previous 4 years can't be considered national title contenders. Before we look at 2018's updated rankings, it's worth it to add a disclaimer. This metric is quite useful for determining which teams have signed elite talent. It is not the most useful for differentiating between batting below average teams or below average and average. Some teams simply do not have a shot of signing elite prospects and instead try to find diamonds in the rough. That's a strategy that can produce wins and conference titles, though perhaps not playoff rings. I think coaching and development are extremely important in college football, but talent acquisition is by far the most important element when trying to compete for the sport's biggest prize. By NCAA rule, coaches get just 20 hours per week with their players. Only so much development can be done. This year, we have 13 teams in the club, 2018 blue chip ratio teams. So obviously, we've got the first team, which is Alabama, at 77%, Ohio State at 76, USC at 71, Georgia at 69%, Florida State at 67%, LSU at 63%, Auburn at 62%, Clemson at 61%, Michigan at 57%, Texas at 55%, Oklahoma at 53%, Penn State at 53%, Notre Dame at 51%. And that's it. There are no real surprises here. All of these teams recruit like gangbusters. Alabama has been tops for the last half decade, while Ohio State has been number 2 steadily. This is what I wrote about Georgia in last year's blue chip ratio post, not me, this guy. Kirby Smart inherited a good Georgia roster from Mark Richt, but his first 2 classes are humming at 74%, while Richt's final 2 were at 53%. It's not yet known if Smart can coach, but Georgia's talent is being upgraded. Turns out Smart seems able to coach pretty well, and he signed the number 1 class in the nation in 2018. His last 2 classes are right on par with those of Saban and Meyer. Texas, Oklahoma, and Penn State are new this year. Texas was off the list for only a year, but Oklahoma and Penn State have not appeared in some time. The Nittany Lions have seen their percentage rise from 21 to 28 to 34 to 41, and now to 51. The Sooners have seen a big jump from 36% 2 years ago to 53% this year. The biggest year-over-year changes among the teams who made the list first saw their numbers jump more than 5% each. Penn State up 12%, Texas 9%, USC 9%, Oklahoma 8%, and Georgia 6%. BCR versus Vegas. How well does this list match up with whom Vegas believes will win the national championship? Extremely well. In fact, the BCR teams ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 in the early August gambling consensus. Among the non-BCR teams, Washington has the 5th best odds, Wisconsin the 8th, Michigan State the 11th, and Miami the 12th. The SEC again leads the way. The SEC has the most teams, 4, followed by the Big Ten 3, ACC 2, Big 12 2, Pac-12 0, 1, and Independence Notre Dame. The Big 12 returning to the list has to be a good feeling for a conference that has not won it all since before current recruits were in elementary school. Miami, Texas A&M, Florida, and Washington could be next up. If these schools finish out with strong 2019 classes, they could join the club thanks to good signing work in the 2016-18 classes. Miami is at 46% and has a poor 2015 class. 23% cycling off the books next year. Texas A&M is at 44% and could sign a top 5 2019 class. Florida is at 42%. The poor 2015 class, 24%, will be coming off the books with a strong class this year. Florida could get back above could get back above 50%. Washington is at 40% and will have the poor 2015 class, 21%, coming off the books. I can't see anyone else making the jump in the next year or two. Are the top teams getting more talented? This year is the first time since I've been tracking in which 5 teams eclipse the 67% mark. This isn't a benchmark. I devote the same level of attention as I do the 50% mark. But it could be that the best teams are widening the gap on the others. This will be something worth tracking in the future. If the trend continues, will these teams win titles even more than regular BCR teams? We'll see. What numbers have recent past champions posted? Alabama won it all in 2017 with an incredible 80% mark. Clemson took home the title in 2016 after signing 52% blue chips in the 2013-16 classes. In 2015, Alabama had a 77% mark. In 2014, it was Ohio State at 68. In 2013, Florida State was at 53. In 2012, Alabama was at 71, just as it was in 2011, and so on. Do all recruits count? What data do you use for this? All signees count, transfers and walk-ons do not. Transfers are not governed by recruit rules and are not rated, and though they are important to every team, are rarely consensual enough to turn a non-contender into a contender. Walk-ons are almost never rated. Sticking with assignees helps to standardize the process. I used the 247 Sports Composite, which blends the 3 major recruiting boards and 24. Okay. Okay, I think now he's just, okay. Otherwise, if your school used a letter of intent on them during and after signing, they count. I think I went on a little bit too long on here. A bunch of this was not important stuff, but that was the blue chip ratio. 13 teams. I'll go over them again. Alabama, Ohio State, USC, Georgia, Florida State, LSU, Auburn, Clemson, Michigan, Texas, Oklahoma, Penn State, Notre Dame. So let's move on to the next story. That was pretty interesting. All right, so this other story here is about Nebraska. I thought this was pretty interesting too. It says, here's why Nebraska football is the Big Ten team you need to watch in 2018. I don't believe it, but let's see. When looking for a team to take a step forward in the Big Ten in 2018, you can only look one direction. Progress is a more realistic goal in the West than the East. The East is dominated by programs like Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Michigan State, a quartet currently ranked in the top 14 in the preseason AP Top 25 poll. If you're Maryland, Rutgers, or Indiana, you'll find yourself facing a steep uphill climb, I should say. The West, meanwhile, has a top 15 team of its own. In fact, it has a top 5 team, as Wisconsin will begin the season ranked number 4. What the Badgers don't have right now is an obvious rival for the division crown. If you're looking for a possible contender for that spot, you'd be wise to look further to the West until your eyes rest on Nebraska. The West is wide open. As mentioned, Wisconsin is the clear-cut favorite in the Big Ten West, and even if there are reasons to be optimistic about Nebraska in 2018, you're a bit delusional if you think the Huskers will beat the Badgers in the division this year. That's not to say it's impossible, but it's improbable. Still, when you look around the rest of the division at teams besides Wisconsin, there's plenty of room to work. Northwestern finished last season in second place with 10 wins, but it enters 2018 without its workhorse running back of the last 4 seasons, and a quarterback recovering from a torn ACL suffered during the bowl game. The schedule doesn't do the Wildcats any favors either. Purdue was last season's surprise, but its defense played a significant role in that surprise, and nearly every major contributor on that unit doesn't return this season. Iowa should be solid and is more likely to finish in second than Nebraska, but it also has the least experienced offensive line in the Big Ten, which may limit its ceiling. Minnesota is starting a true freshman walk-on at QB, though to be clear, he was a three-star recruit with offers from other Power 5 schools and has a very young team. Look up and down the two deep and you'll find a boatload of sophomores and freshmen as PJ Flex looks to establish a baseline for his program. Illinois might be poised to take a significant step forward, but a significant step forward for the Illini would be 5-7, not posing a threat in the division. Then there's Nebraska, a team with plenty of flaws of its own, but that's one that's still talented. While Mike Riley didn't win nearly enough games in Lincoln, he kept the flow of talent churning. While Nebraska hasn't been recruiting at a level to compete for national titles, it's continually had the best or second best class in the West Division. So as Scott Frost and staff look to revitalize the program, they have some useful ingredients to work with. The Frost effect. Have you heard that Nebraska hired Scott Frost? It did, and it's a move that will pay off down the line. Not only is this the same Frost that helped lead Nebraska to its last national title in 1997, but it's the same Frost that turned around a UCF program in the blink of an eye. Central Florida went 0-12 in 2015 and brought in Frost from Oregon, where he was the offensive coordinator. The Knights immediately improved to 6-7 in Frost's last season, reaching the Cure Bowl. Then last year, UCF went 13-0 and beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl to finish the season ranked number 6 in the AP Top 25. It was a dramatic turnaround and one that doesn't happen by accident. Now that a kind of quick fix isn't realistic at Nebraska, while Frost is inheriting a team that went 4-8 instead of 0-12, it's a lot easier to improve a team by 6 wins during your first season in the ACC than it will be in the Big Ten, where you'll have to play road games against Michigan, Ohio State, and Wisconsin, though Central Florida did play a road game against Michigan in 2016 as well, losing 51-14. Of course, the good news is Frost doesn't need a 6-win improvement in 2018. A 2 or 3 win improvement would likely be more than enough to appease the fan base. A big reason for Central Florida's improvement under Frost was his offense. After averaging 13.9 points per game in 2015, the Knights' offense scored 28.8 points per game in 2016, and that number increased to 48.2 points per game last season. Nebraska has more to work with as it averaged 25.8 points per game last year. Still, the real difference won't be on the scoreboard, but in the way it plays, and the pace it moves. During Frost's last seasons at Central Florida, the Knights ran an average of 949.5 plays per season. On offense, Nebraska ran 827 plays on offense last year. While there isn't any clear evidence that running more plays on offense wears the defense down as the game rolls on, the fact of the matter is that being different is good. It's why we seem like Georgia Tech and Navy continually prove to be a pain in the butt for conference opponents, despite a disadvantage in talent. There aren't a lot of teams in the Big Ten that move at the pace Frost wants his offense to operate at, making it more difficult to prepare for every week. The Nebraska offense won't be a finished product in 2018. Odds are it will be starting either a redshirt or true freshman at QB, and it will hit bumps in the road, but it will cause headaches for opposing defenses and should be much more explosive than the 2017 Nebraska offense proved to be, particularly in the run game behind 4 returning starters on the offensive line. Defense will be better because it can't get much worse. Nebraska's lost 6 of its final 7 games last season. Its lone win, a narrow 25-24 victory on the road at Purdue, was the only one of those 7 games in which the Huskers allowed fewer than 30 points. In fact, Nebraska allowed 54 points to Minnesota, a team that averaged 19.2 points per game and its other 11 contests. 56 points to Penn State, and then another 56 points to Iowa in its final 3 games. To summarize the situation, Nebraska's defense in 2017 was abysmal. Seriously, look up a defensive stat in 2017, either a traditional stat or an advanced metric, and you'll find Nebraska near the bottom of the list because of this. And because of Nebraska's talent level, this is a unit that should improve by default, and that will help the Huskers improve overall. Eric Chinander has taken over the defense after running things for Frost at Central Florida, and he'll bring an approach that's more aggressive than what Bob Diaco did in 2017. While both coordinators run a version of the 3-4, Diaco preferred dropping 7 or 8 guys into coverage and didn't bring a lot of extra pressure on the quarterback. Chinander's approach is more aggressive. And I quote, we're more on the side of one gap 3-4 with occasional two gappers, Chinander told reporters during the spring. Very aggressive in bringing a fourth or fifth rusher and playing up on people in coverage. Either we're going to have the personnel to get it in the court to get to the quarterback, or I'm going to have to manufacture it. That's my job. We're going to get it done. I don't know if it's going to be we line up with 4 or we line up with 3 and do blitz packages and get there. But we'll get there. It's a very aggressive style. Considering how many players return on the defensive side of the ball, Chinander will have an experienced unit to work with, which should help the implementation of this new philosophy go smoother. Don't expect Nebraska to return to its glory days of its black shirts in 2018, but a move toward the middle of the conference in overall defense would result in a major step forward in the standings. And it's another reason why Nebraska is a team you'll want to keep an eye on during the 2018 season. I'm still not convinced personally. I really don't see. I do see improvement. I can see improvement. And the thing about the defense not getting much worse, it can. It can definitely get worse. I don't think it will, but it can get worse. Don't say that it can't get worse, because anything can get worse. But I don't know. I don't think they'll get worse. I think they'll definitely get better. So I think it's gonna work out for Nebraska, and they could. I think they'll have a better record. I could see them winning maybe 7 or 8 games, maybe. And that's just me being. I don't know. I don't know much about Nebraska's team. I didn't hear great things about them, so I'm not convinced on it. But and I don't know if keeping an eye on them is what I should be doing, but I don't know. The only time I'll really be paying attention to them is when Michigan's facing them in week 4. I think we play them for week 4. Yeah, we play Notre Dame, then we play Western Michigan, then Southern Methodist, and then it's Nebraska. That's our first Big Ten game. All right, so let's move on to the last story for today. All right, so this is a update on Urban Meyer. If you remember, if you did watch yesterday's video, I did talk about Urban Meyer and how they were going to give an update on him. So instead of either just keeping him or firing him, they suspended him for 3 games. So Ohio State suspends football coach Urban Meyer for the first 3 games of 2018 season. So he'll be suspended for the Oregon State game, the TCU game, and the Rutgers game. So no challenges whatsoever. Ohio State coach Urban Meyer has been suspended for the first 3 games of the 2018 season. University President Michael Drake announced late Wednesday, following a lengthy consultation with the Ohio State Board of Trustees. Meyer will be fully suspended through the Oregon State game, meaning he will not be allowed to attend practices. And there's my battery again. He won't be allowed to attend practices or have contact with the team after that. He will be able to direct practice during the week, but not allowed to coach the team during its games against Rutgers and number 16 TCU as part of the suspension. Meyer will forego 6 weeks of play. Ohio State. Meyer will forego 6 weeks of play. Okay. Of pay, not play, of pay. Ohio State also announced that athletic director Gene Smith has been suspended just over 2 weeks, from August 31st to September 16th. And I quote, "We believe clearly that Urban Meyer did not and does not condone domestic abuse," said Drake. However, he did fail to take sufficient management action regarding Zach Smith, and he was not as complete and accurate at media days and didn't uphold the high standards and values of the university on that day. Therefore, Urban Meyer is suspended through September 2nd, 2018, and for the games on the 1st, 8th, and 15th. Meyer will forego pay for that time. The summary of Ohio State's investigation resulting in Meyer's suspension stated that Meyer failed to act appropriately regarding alleged abuse by Zach Smith of his former wife and related allegations, that he misrepresented his knowledge of the alleged events at the Big Ten Media Days. The investigation also found that Meyer and Gene Smith failed to adhere to the precise requirements of the contracts when they concluded that they needed to await a law enforcement determination to file charges before they reported the otherwise disputed claims of spousal abuse against Zach Smith. They did so based upon a good faith belief that they did not have sufficient information to trigger a reporting obligation or initiate a disciplinary action in the absence of law enforcement action. Other than their misunderstanding of the requirements triggering reporting obligations, neither Coach Meyer nor athletic director Smith violated any policy rules, law, or contractual obligations in connection with the alleged domestic abuse claims against Zach Smith. The decision came down following a 2-week investigation into Meyer's handling of domestic violence claims against former Smith, the team's former wide receiver coach. That investigation was completed on Sunday, August 19th. Meyer made the following statement following the announcement Wednesday evening, and I quote, I know that the impact the events of the last 3 weeks have had on this institution, an institution I love, and how challenging this has been for our community, our president, a man I have great respect for, and for that I am deeply sorry. I am fully aware that I am ultimately responsible for this situation that has harmed the university as a whole, and our Department of Athletics and our football program. I want to apologize to Buckeye Nation. I follow my heart, not my head. I fell short in pursuing full information because at each juncture I gave Zach Smith the benefit of a doubt, as I reflect my loyalty to his grandfather, Earl Bruce, who was my mentor and like a father to me, likely impacted how I treated Zach over the years. I did not know everything about Zach Smith, what Zach Smith was doing, and I'm pleased that the report made this very clear. However, I should have demanded more from him and recognized red flags. I needed to show more care and concern for the entirety of the situation and the people involved. I should have been more demanding of him in the same way. I am of my players, other staff members, and myself. I should have done more, and I'm sorry for that. I did a poor job at media days. It's a big reason why we are here today. I was not being as complete or accurate as I should have been at media days and afterward, but there was no intent to mislead. My role is to set a good example. In this instance, I did not live up to the university's standards. The suspensions are tough, but I fully accept them. I wish I could go back and make different decisions, but I can't. These difficult lessons are a constant reminder of the duties and obligations that I have as a member of the university and this community. I take this responsibility very seriously, and I will do better. I have been a Buckeye my entire life. For the past 6 years, I have worked diligently to build a program that the great state of Ohio and Ohio State can be very proud of. And I appreciate the opportunity to learn from a mistake, and I will work as hard as I ever have to make our strong program even stronger. End quote. Ohio State placed Meyer on administrative leave on August 1st. In response to reports from Brett McMurphy detailing the coach's knowledge of 2015 incident involving Zach Smith, 1 week earlier, Meyer told reporters at Big Ten Media Days that he had absolutely no knowledge of the incident. Smith was fired on July 23rd after McMurphy reported a string of domestic violence incidents. The aforementioned 2015 incident and another in 2009 while at Florida, involving the assistant and his then-wife, Courtney. During Wednesday's press conference, Meyer said that he was not aware of the text messages between Courtney Smith and his wife, Shelley, that McMurphy unearthed. The messages between Shelley and Courtney played a large role in Ohio State's investigation into the incident. Gene Smith took full responsibility for his actions during the press conference and accepted the consequences handed down by the president. However, when asked about the firing of Zach Smith, the athletic director dismissed the notion that the decision came down to when it did based on the new information revealed in McMurphy's report. Urban and I had conversations throughout the day, and ultimately he came to a decision where he wanted to terminate Zach Smith as a result of a number of different things over Zach's tenure. Gene Smith said, but it wasn't because of that singular incident. While on leave, Meyer released a statement claiming he always followed proper reporting protocols and procedures when I have learned of an incident involving a student athlete, coach, or member of our staff by elevating the issues to the proper channels, and I did so regarding the Zach Smith incident in 2015. I take that responsibility very seriously, and any suggestions to the contrary is simply false. Smith also claimed that he was unaware of the 2009 incident between Zach and Courtney Smith when he hired him as a member of Meyer's staff at Ohio State. Meyer did not admit fault in this situation, but did claim that he failed on many fronts, as Big Ten Media Days do, to be clear, compassionate, and most of all, completely accurate in addressing personnel issue. He continued, my intention was not to say anything inaccurate or misleading. However, I was not adequately prepared to discuss these sensitive personal issues with the media, and I apologize for the way I handled those questions. Twice, Meyer was asked whether he agreed with Ohio State's decision to suspend him, and he answered the question the same way both times. I trust and support our president. Meyer was also asked if he had anything to say to Courtney Smith. My message is to everyone. I'm sorry we're in this situation, he said. I'm just sorry we're in this situation. Co-offensive coordinator Ryan Day has been serving as the Buckeyes' interim coach for the last 3 weeks and is expected to maintain that role through week 3 of the 2018 season. So there's my, there it is. I have to go because my phone's about to die. Thank you guys for watching.